All right. I think I figured this out. First time me trying this on my own. So hopefully you guys can see me and hopefully you guys can hear me. I'll give a couple minutes, kind of let everyone jump on. I know it always takes a while for people to get notified that someone's coming on live. So we'll just give it a second here. And if you can hear me or see me or whatever, let me know so that I know that I actually am talking to someone out here. Normally I do this with a host, but today it is going to be all me. And we are going to be talking about the Mind BiggerPockets Dream Investment Adventure Journey. So we got a couple people. All right. We got both. Tay says we got both. All right, cool. Well, she's watching, my fan. All right, we're going to give it a couple more minutes. So the reason I'm doing this is I'm going to let everyone have a chance to basically pick my brain about how I coached and mentored Joe Roberts, who was the $20,000 giveaway, which was a collaboration between Mind and BiggerPockets. And I coached and mentored him along with, the help of BiggerPockets and Mind Property Management. And we basically had the guy buy a property sight unseen in another state that he's never been to, didn't know anything about it. And I'm going to tell you how I did that. We're going to talk through it. So we're just going to give it a couple more minutes. But if you guys have questions for me on how he did it, why he did it, how you can do something like this, go ahead and ask me away. I'm here to answer your questions. And again, we'll just give it a couple more minutes. All right, we got a couple people. If you are here and you're watching, I'm curious where you're watching from. I know we get a lot of people. BiggerPockets has a huge following all over the world. I get people from South Africa, a lot of military people over in the Middle East, so we get a lot of people. So I'm curious where you're at. So if you are watching us from somewhere other than right here in my studio, let me know where you're from. Okay, we got Miami. Cool. I know Tay's in Hawaii, and we got a lot of stuff. Beaver says, where do I begin? Very nice. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me kind of get started a little bit. If you don't know who I am, I'll introduce myself. I'm Steve Rozenberg, and I am the head of investor education over at Mind Property Management. Mind Property Management, they manage about 8,000 properties in over 20 markets nationwide. And they decided that it would be a great idea to really dig deep and educate people. And the best way to do that is to give them some money. So that drives a lot of people. When you get $20,000 cash in your bank to go buy something, that will motivate people to do it. I'm sure if you got $20,000 and said, go buy something, and someone's going to help you and coach you through it, you probably would do it, I'm guessing. So Mind partnered with BiggerPockets on this collaboration. It was a great experience. There were weekly episodes. They started 2 months ago. And today we're going to launch the grand finale episode. So if you haven't watched them, make sure you go to the YouTube channel and watch from the beginning. And I'm going to talk you through all the things that I did. So you're going to kind of get get into my head as to how I coached him and how I did it and how we utilize BiggerPockets and Mind to help Joe buy a property sight unseen. So it was pretty cool. I was pretty honored to be able to help him. And it was, it's kind of a cool thing. If you have not liked, commented, and subscribed to this channel, please do it right now. If you are not getting your education from BiggerPockets, I don't know where you're getting it from, but it's probably not top level the way BiggerPockets does. So you got to make sure that you're getting all the information. I get alerts all day long from content, and I'm always watching it. There's some skinny guy with a beard. He's always doing some funky stuff. No, Brandon's a great guy, good friend of mine. He does some amazing stuff. And just drop him and David. They've got their podcast show. We got the Real Estate Rookie, just a ton of stuff. So if you're not on there, please go on there and subscribe to the channel, because if you are trying to do this alone, which you're going to learn how I helped Joe, you're probably going to fail, and you're probably going to cost you thousands of dollars and a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure it out on your own. And so what we really wanted to do is we really wanted to help out Joe to make sure that he didn't fail. And so in today's finale, we're going to recap Joe and basically his out-of-state journey. He's going to tell us what went good. He's also going to tell us about what the mistakes that he made and how you may want to avoid the mistakes he did. Some mistakes cost him some money. Some mistakes he just kind of had to learn along the way. Being in a new city and doing new stuff, it was not the norm. So he had to figure that out. So if you have not watched it, again, go back to episode 1. Today's the grand finale, but you don't want to start at the end, right? You got to go back to the beginning and you got to see the whole story. So for those of you who don't know, Joe is a Marine. He is a naval aviator based in Camp Lejeune. And Joe won the $20,000 giveaway. And we went out to Camp Lejeune. We got to meet him. We got to see some of his properties. He had a couple of properties already, kind of fumbling a little bit, wasn't really sure, but he was getting it done. He had I believe he had a property in Pensacola, and he had 2 that he was working on in North Carolina that I actually went out and gave him some tips and advice on how to do it. And some things that, he could probably do a little better. He got us on base. We got to check out the cool helicopters. For those of you that know, my background is being an airline pilot, so I got to relate, and it was really cool because I got to talk to the squadron. They were asking a lot about, getting out of the military, becoming an airline pilot, and other people were saying getting out of the military and doing real estate. And so I kind of have melded the two. So they were really trying to pick my brain. And so, on the YouTube Live, I want to talk about the different steps that Joe did in this remote investing. Now, obviously, because of COVID, it made it a lot harder. The plan was for him never to go to the property and see it until the end. I think to date, Joe has still not seen the property. We went all the way through. We got it rented. We did the rehab. We found it. We did the whole thing. And in the chronological order, you can go into the videos and watch that. So it was really a great experience for me to help him and show him that, you make more money and save more time by sitting behind your desk and being an investor than being a landlord. And so what I mean by the difference, I'll just explain real quick. A landlord is someone who wants to do it themselves. They want to be involved in the construction. They want to be in the tenant selection process, the laying the tile, the picking the contractors, Home Depot, all of that. And let me just say that I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's great if you want to do that. I do think, though, that you are going to get limited by 2 things if you want to be a landlord. You are going to be limited by the amount of hours in the day, so time. And the next thing you're going to be limited by is you're going to be limited by your knowledge. And it may not be at 1 property or 2 properties. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 20. But at some point, you will be limited if you try to do it all yourself. The investor, on the other hand, is somebody who uses a team. So they use the leverage of a team, just like you would use a leverage of a car to get somewhere as opposed to walking. You use a freeway instead of streets. Sometimes when you're investing, this is the key to accelerating your growth. So when you're doing this, my recommendation is utilize leverage. And this is what I explained to Joe, and we're going to talk about in a little bit. But the investor can scale much faster by using the knowledge and using kind of the neck up mentality of saying, hey, I'm just going to use my brain. Because when you have a property, when you have a rental property, you are the CEO of that business. And I'm curious if anyone else has gone in through this landlord phase. And the reason I know is I was doing this. I was the landlord. I was the guy that was doing it. And the problem was I assumed I was doing it right. And I was actually doing it wrong. I made a lot of mistakes. It cost me a lot of money. I mean, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in mistakes because I thought that was something I should do. When I bought the property, I used a team. When I owned the property, I thought that's how it showed how smart I was and how much wealthy I could be if I did it myself. And I was trying to lay tile. I was screening applicants. I was learning a lot about landlord-tenant law, property code enforcement, fair housing, discrimination, all the things that kind of sneak up and bite you is what I learned. And so in this experience with Joe, we tried to explain to him that you want to be the investor. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong if people, I don't want to get hate mail if I say that you're a landlord. I think it's great, but just make sure that you're treating it like a business and you are being responsible. You've got living, breathing people in this property. So you've got to make sure that you're treating it that way. So in this whole series, we talk about Joe being the investor because he was going from the landlord model of doing a lot himself to going to be an investor. And an investor uses leverage. They use a property management company. They use general contractors. They use realtors. They use everything. And Joe is able to get all that from BiggerPockets. Now, Mind and BiggerPockets are giving you a special, if you're watching this, for everyone. If you go to the Mind website, it's mynd.com. mynd.co. So it's mynd.co. So co. And if you go there, the Dream Investor Adventure, and you can learn more about receiving, a discount on property management services and over the 19 markets that we're in. So if you're in Charlotte, Atlanta, Tampa, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Vegas, Phoenix, Seattle, San Francisco, I mean, I can go on and on, but 19 of them, you get the idea. So if you want to talk to someone, again, it's all about handshakes and networking. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. You are going to learn that you will make a lot more money by being the investor, and you will save a lot more time by being the investor than the landlord. I mean, I think at the end of the day, all of us investors or people who want to be investors, we don't normally get into this industry to have a second or third job or to be more busy or more stressed. Normally, we do this because we want to have some safe, secure retirement for ourselves. But what happens is we kind of somewhere lose that in translation, and we now become the person who's doing it all. And now you're basically employed by one person, which is you, and that one person is crazy and they don't know what they're doing. And that's kind of where you either get burnt out and you quit, or you get into some lawsuit and you get sued, or you lose a lot of money. I know because I learned all those things on my own. So just to recap this Dream Investor, how this whole thing started. Again, it started in 2019 at the BiggerPockets conference 1. Well, there's not been a 2 yet because of COVID, but BiggerPockets 1. So for those of you that were there, we announced the $20,000 giveaway, and we were getting tons and tons of people that wanted to be involved. Mind Property Management did a contest, and they awarded $20,000 towards the purchase of a rental property. Joe Roberts came in and just was the guy. We really liked everything. We liked his attitude. It was really tough because we had thousands and thousands of people obviously wanted the $20,000. If you don't want the $20,000, let me know what you're doing, and I will come be your student because I want to learn why you don't need $20,000. I mean, who on here would want to have $20,000 to buy an investment property? And it's literally wired to your bank account. Would anybody want that, or to be coached and learn how to do that? I know I wish I had something like that when I was learning. And again, thanks to BiggerPockets and Mind Property Management for doing that. So let's talk a little bit. And again, if you guys have questions how we did this, let me know. Ask me the questions. This is why I'm here. I will do my best to get to them. I know there's a lot of questions coming in, people making comments, but if you have questions, I would love to answer them for you. I'm here. I'm doing this complimentary because I want to make sure that, as investors, there is a very, very small circle of people. When you think of all the houses, all the roofs in America or in the world, somebody owns those roofs, right? Majority of those people are investors that own those roofs. But when you think of the people on BiggerPockets and everything, it's a couple million people. But there's 300 million people just in the US. So it just goes to show that we are a very, very small society. There's not many of us. And, if I can save someone the mistakes that I made personally, the tenants, toilets, turmoil that I personally went through, it was huge, huge problem. And it was something that I would never want to wish upon anyone. So if I can help you bypass 20 years, then I'm doing my job. Hector, Franklin Panthers. That's right. Franklin grew up in Highland Park, California, and went to Franklin High School. That's right. Nice to see you, Hector. Anyways, but if you have a question, let me know. But I will take a Franklin shout out. That's for sure. Let's see. I've saved $10K, about to get my broker's license. What's the first step? Well, depending on what state you're in, if you're in, any state, you're probably going to have to become a realtor, maybe for a certain amount of time. And then after you become that realtor, you'll have to go ahead and apply for your broker's license. So it's a step process. You probably got to hang your license with someone. But again, I would go to the real estate commission for your state and find out what that is. Mustache Mike, I love that name. That's a pretty cool name. Does this playlist show the process you guys did? Yes, it shows the process. And I'm going to go through that process. I know I'm a little long-winded. Zach is probably blowing up my phone because he probably wants me to stop talking. Let me see if he's texting me. Nope. He says I'm good. Okay, cool. I've got the mic and I've got the video, so there's nothing he could do about it. He probably shut me off, but I don't think he would. So anyways, yes. And so the if you go into the YouTube playlist, it is there under the Bigger Pockets. So let's just talk about the first step we did in video number 1. We talked about selecting the market to invest in. So when I talked to Joe, and again, this was we had a lot of conversations. Joe was a great guy because, you know, he was very moldable. And I will tell you that, you know, I can teach people anything, but you can't teach them heart. And so Joe just had that desire. He was willing to listen to what I said. And I told him, I said, if you listen to what I tell you, you're going to feel uncomfortable, but you just got to trust the process. And if you trust the process and you use all the assets that we have available to us, you will walk out of this with a property. So just remember that you can teach skills. You can't teach heart and desire. So you've got to be willing to, I almost like people that don't know what they're doing when I help them, because they don't tell me all the things that they can't do. So, you know, I want to hear people say, absolutely, I'll go do it and I'll come back with answers. So if you're ever being coached or helped by somebody, just remember, they don't care what your opinion is. That's why you are having them help you. So just, you know, again, you may know something and that's great, but there's a reason they're helping you. So Bigger Pockets is great because some of the smartest freaking guys I've ever met are inside of Bigger Pockets. You got Jay Scott, you got Tarl, you got Brandon, you got David Green, you even got Ryan Murdoch in there every now and then. But, you know, there's just so many solid people on there that are just dominating with knowledge. And so everyone on here should just be soaking that up. I mean, this didn't exist when I was here. So when we were talking about the first series with Joe, the first thing I wanted to know is, what do you want out of this? Like, let's push back past this whole, you know, $20,000 and that's great. But what does Joe do on day 2 after he closes on that property? What does the next year, next 5 years, next 20 years look like for Joe? Because Joe is in the military. He's a naval aviator. He's flying. What does his life look like? So if you are trying to decide what your life looks like, that's how you start the process. You've almost got to start with the end in mind. That's the goal. And then you work it backwards to the strategy. So the strategy backwards is how you're going to get there. Okay. And the strategy, so you may say, I want to have, and let me back up a second here. A goal has to have a definite time limit, and it's got to have a finite number to it. You can't just say, I want to have cash flow to live. You can make a freaking dollar and live in your car and have a dollar, and congratulations, you reached your goal. You've got to actually make it a number. So my suggestion is, I'll give you just an example. I'm not saying to do this. This is an example. Is you may say, I call it the 2-2-2 rule. You may say, in 20 years, I want to have 20 properties earning me $20,000 a month in passive income. That's a goal, because it's got an end date, which is 20 years, and it's got an amount, the 20,000. Now, you're just assuming that it's going to take you 20 doors to get you that 20,000. But now you got to start backing it up and say, what's the strategy to get that 2-2-2 rule, or whatever it is, 5-5-5, whatever you want to have. But you see how you've got to have something that you're going for. See, a lot of times investors, what we do is we buy a property and then we decide what we're going to do with the property. Do we flip it? Do we wholesale it? Do we keep it? Do we burr it? Well, that's like getting on the freeway and not knowing where you're going, and you're just driving around. And then at some point you're going to go, where are we going? Before you leave the house, you got to have a destination. Before you buy a property, you have to have a goal. Now, the strategy for Joe was he wanted to have a certain amount of assets with a certain amount of income, and that was the goal. So then we had to define what makes a good investment for him. So the investment, the actual property itself, was the numbers that would dictate the deal. Okay. So I see a lot of comments. I'm going to get to those. I'm on a roll a little bit, so I'm going to just kind of keep free flowing unless Zach tells me stop. I'm going to keep going. But so you got to have the strategy. You got to have the goals. Okay. And so now that's how you know where you're going, because you don't want to just buy a property. I know, because I bought about 30 or 40 of these properties because I thought they were good deals. I thought because I was getting them under market, and I thought because they were cash flowing on paper that they were great deals. Well, they were good deals, but I had the wrong business model wrapped around them. So they were not good deals for me, and they almost drove me into bankruptcy and foreclosure because I didn't have the right goal and the right strategy. So it's very, very important. Now, once you know your goal and your strategy, then you've got to figure out what market will give me that strategy. So Joe and I had to sit down and we had to figure out what is his goals, what is his strategy. And then from there, we had to go through this and we had to decide what is the best market. So then we had to come up with drivers, okay? So when you're thinking of a market to go in, you've got to define if you're going to do long-term, short-term. These kind of things are going to help you define what you're going to do and what market you're going to be in. So for example, whenever I'm looking at an out-of-area market, just some things you may want to write down if you have pen and paper or snap it or whatever you do, is I would say to, first of all, what are the economic drivers to the city? So I do not personally like a city that only has one economic driver. I don't like a city that only has one type of industry or one type of business. Now, I can tell you, living in Houston, Texas, that happened to Houston in the 80s, and they were big on oil. And when oil went bust, so did the city. And so Houston learned its lesson. So now they've got multiple drivers here in Houston. They got the medical center, they've got NASA, they've got oil, they've got energy, they've got the Port of Houston. There's a lot of economic drivers. So even if oil takes a dump, it doesn't affect the overall economy, okay? So you look at what are the drivers. Next thing I would say to look at is what are there Fortune 100, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies there, and how many? And how much revenue is coming in from those businesses? And is it one business that's supplying the city or are there multiples? So then we wanted to look at, okay, what are obviously the house prices, right? Gee whiz, common sense, right? You're going to look at the house prices. Can you afford that? Then you're going to look at the rental amounts. And then once you know the house price and the rental amount, does that fit your strategy? Okay. So then we've got to look at average age of properties. Are you buying something built in the 1900s? Or are you buying something that's built in the 2000s or 2020s? Because that is going to affect your maintenance. It's going to affect your rehab cost, your CapEx, all that stuff. Then you got to look at what is the average age of the residents? Are they older? Are they younger? Are these retirement communities? Are they millennials? How old are these people? Because different age brackets require different amenities. And so you want to think about what you're going to supply to these people. Then we had some other things like I would want to know eviction rates in the area. I would want to know days on market for vacant properties. I would want to know the occupancy rates. And one of the major things you always want to look at is school districts. School districts is a huge driver when it comes to rental properties. Now, I can tell you at Mind, we manage almost 8,000 properties. We know what the drivers are to get a good property rented. And if anybody wants to talk to anyone at Mind, like I said, if you go to our website at mind.co, you can get a special discount and you'll get a free consultation just to talk to someone to even see if you're on the right path. Now, my point is the tools and data are out there, okay? And if you watch the series, Joe will show where he got the tools and data to do this. So none of his emotions, I didn't care if Joe liked a city. That made no difference to me. The data and the numbers dictated it based on his goal and based on your strategy. So if you're thinking that something looks like a good city, I don't care what you think. I care what the numbers say, because the numbers are going to drive your decision, not your opinion and not your emotion. Because the reality is you're not living in the property and you're not going to see the property if you're doing this correctly. See, a lot of times we get emotionally attached to a property and we think that we have to be near a property. If anyone's ever anyone ever has owned a property, I'm curious for those of you watching, if I still have people watching me, maybe I do. For those of you that are watching, do you feel that you need to be in the same area as your property? And a lot of people do, and that's okay. But it is going to limit you. If you live in San Francisco or the Bay Area and price points are such that you cannot purchase a property, then you're stuck. So you have to understand the numbers based on your goals and based on your strategy are going to drive that. If the numbers in San Francisco don't work based on your goal, then you got to change the goal or change the strategy. Changing the strategy means changing your market. So when you change the market, now you got to go find a market that matches. Now, a lot of people say, well, wait a second. I got to touch it. I got to feel it. I got to smell the wood on this property. And the answer is no, you don't. That is not your job. Your job is the CEO of the business. Just like in a lot of these conversations I had with Joe, is that his job was to be the CEO of the business, not to be the person who wants to do it all. So actually, by it being out of your area means you have to refine your business model even more to be process and procedure driven and not you driven. Because if you get hit by a truck tomorrow, hope you don't, but if you do, who's going to run your business? Because if it's all in your head and you're very proud that it's in your head and you all of a sudden can't work, you have a big problem. And you don't have a business, this means you have a job. So I wanted Joe to understand that the tools and data are going to drive this. Okay. So that was basically episode 1, is we had to define the city. Now in episode 2, we actually figured out where he was going to invest in. Now, I got a couple comments here. Let me see here. Reverse plans. Okay. Looks like Vegas is a good city for investment due to the latest reports. People are definitely moving that way. Lourdes, they may, but again, I don't care about that specifically. I care about the numbers. I care about the goal. I care about the strategy. That's what's going to define this, not whether people are living there. Kinky Neferiti. Okay. I'm studying to get my real estate license in Austin. I'm an Army vet with service connection. Thank you for your service. I'm a single mom. I have a government job and I'm looking for a mentor. I want to become an investor one day. Well, you got a BiggerPockets. I honestly, I can't stress a bigger mentor than all the people in there. I mean, I have learned and met some amazing people on there. So you're definitely on the right place by doing that. Jonathan Martinez, I have a potential city that is up and coming, that is up and coming. Hospital, new college, buildings, new businesses, like hotels. I'm trying to get a piece of the pie. My next step, I need private lenders. Yeah. So my, people that I talk to and help, I would say, I want you to call 20 private lenders that you know. And, the one thing about private lenders, I will tell you, is a lot of people get very nervous. They kind of get their palms all sweaty. They're afraid. The thing is, you're not actually asking for a favor. You are making a private lender money. I'm going to take your money and get you X% return in exchange for you loaning that money. That is not a favor. You saying, can I have the money for free? And I just want to have it for a while. That is a favor. So my point is when you're talking to private lenders, I would line them up. I would create a script and I would make it as what's in it for them, with them it's called. And I would make sure that they understand that they are getting something out of this, because anyone who has money that is talked to about a deal, they're thinking about their return. Now, I'm going to keep going here unless, Zach, am I doing all right, man? All right. He hasn't shut me off, so I'm going to keep going. All right. Episode number two. This is where we talked about building the local team. So based on the data, based on the numbers, as you'll see in the videos, we decided that Atlanta was the city. He had it down between Houston. I think the cities were San Antonio, Houston, Tampa, and Atlanta. And he had all the drivers, and you go on there, you'll be able to see the spreadsheets of all the data that he had. Joe's a very, very smart guy, and he had a lot of spreadsheets. Too many for me, but he did a great job on the spreadsheets. But that's how we defined the data. So from there, we decided that Atlanta was the key. And I'll let you watch the video so that you can see why. But then we had to say, okay, now we know where we're going, right? We have the goal. We knew the goal. And then we knew where we were going to invest, and we knew the strategy. So the next thing we had to do was build the team. See, a lot of times people go there and they want to start buying. Buying is the last piece of the puzzle. Let me just tell you, it's goal, strategy, tactic. Tactic is the property. We got the strategy. Now we got to build the team. So a lot of times people get a property in Atlanta. Let's say if Joe would have done this on his own, he would have bought the property in Atlanta. Then he would have started looking for the GCs, for the property managers, for the realtors, all that stuff. And now you're scrambling. And when you're scrambling and when you're in chaos mode, you're not thinking clearly and you're not making money because you are thinking out of emotions and you're not thinking as a business. So you got to slow it down sometimes to speed up. So what I had Joe do is I had him sit there and think about, we got episode 1 is right there in the link. Look at that. Like magic, right? So we decided who we needed on the team. So first we needed a realtor, right? We needed a realtor to find the property. Joe went into the BiggerPockets forums and he scoured the BiggerPockets forums for Atlanta. And I said, just go on there and you will see several names pop up. Those names are the ones you need to contact. So he did that. He went in there and he went in BiggerPockets. He spent a couple days looking through and he kept seeing the same similar names. Nick was the guy that we found in Atlanta. One of the only guys who actually responded to Joe, which of course is kind of necessary. But Nick Nick was on it, man. He's an investor. He's big in BiggerPockets. He gets it. He does BRRRRs. He knew the whole deal. So the strategy was we were going to BRRRR this property, by the way. So we needed a realtor first. After that, we had to define, okay, once we have the property, what's next? Well, then we got to get a GC because we got to figure out what's needed to be done. Joe's a realtor and he does rehabs and stuff like that, but we wanted someone who's actually going to be doing the work to get some bids. So then from there, we had to figure the property management company. Well, Mind gave him $20,000, so it was pretty much assumed he was going to use Mind, which he did, and it actually turned out great. But I wanted him to understand how he's going to use the asset. And then we had to put all of this together. Of course, appraisers, inspectors, all that stuff. The whole reason that we did this way, the reason I explained it to Joe, is I want him to be able to buy 5 properties in 5 cities at the same time. That means you're an investor. So doing it once in one city is great. And now he's laid the groundwork. He built the team. He got the property manager. He got the realtor. He got the lending taken care of, all of that. And we had that. Now, if he goes to Phoenix, we would do the same thing. If he goes to Houston, we do the same thing. So now they're feeding him deals, you see? And so now he's just making decisions based on numbers, okay? So then we have to figure out what are we going to ask the team? Because just because they answer the phone, Nick's a great guy. Nick did a great job, but you got to make sure that you set the right expectations. So a lot of times when people hire, let's say, a management company, when I ask them why they hired them, first of all, they say they were the cheapest. Okay, well, that really doesn't make much sense because this is all of your money most of the time, or the second biggest investment you'll ever make is a rental property. And why would you trust it to the cheapest person? That's like going down the street and seeing a surgeon offer 50% off on surgeries today, and you pull into the driveway because it was on sale, right? You wouldn't do that, right? That seems ridiculous. But when it comes to your finances, you're kind of doing the same thing. You're putting your finances at risk, and that's something you do not want to do. So my point is you've got to qualify them. What is their business strategy, and how does their business strategy align with yours? So I gave Joe the top 20 questions that he should ask a property management company, and he asked them, right? And that's important. Anywhere you go, you got to ask the questions, because if your property is a $3,000 a month rental and this company manages $300 a month rentals, you may have a disconnect on what they do. So you've got to make sure that whatever you're doing, you are aligned with them. You've got to let them know what your business strategy is, what your goals are, what your vision is. Now, if you cannot answer that for yourself, then you need to slow it down and you need to figure out what that is. But then you need to ask them what theirs is, and you got to make sure that they align. Then you got to start asking harder questions. What is your eviction rate, right? What is your occupancy rate? What is your turn rate? What is your make-ready costs? These are things that you want to know, right? Because you may never see them. Also, do they manage properties like you're buying? And then based on that, you also got to ask, are they going to be able to help you and service you if you are an out-of-state investor? Now, most of the time they can. And I know Mind, we have people all over the world that we manage properties for. So we already knew the answers to that. Same question goes with the general contractors. Same questions go with the realtors, right? You got to keep doing that. You got to ask all those questions. You have to set the expectations. What happens if you go over your time for the job? What if you overbid it? What if you underbid it? These are questions you want to ask before you engage in business with them. You know, when I call you or when I reach out to you, how do you like to communicate? Is it text, phone, email, smoke signals? Like, how do I get a hold of you, right? And if I can't get a hold of you, who is the next person I can talk to? So again, these are the things you want to ask before you do business with them. And again, in the videos, we did all this. We talked to him. It was great. And that was basically episode number 2. So episode number 2, we did all that. Now, episode number 3 was how to analyze the deals. So all of a sudden, he started having people coming in, and he had deals coming in at him. So then we had to figure out how to analyze them. Because, once you start looking at deals start finding you. And you've always got to make sure that it aligns with your goals. So what we did is we came up with a matrix, because Nick was just on fire sending him deals, right? And so I said, okay, first we got to do, what are your non-negotiables? And what I mean by that is, and everybody has a different way to do it. I'm just telling you how I recommend doing it. So don't anyone get upset or tell me there's different ways. But basically, there's 5 ways that you buy property and 5 reasons why you would or would not. You've got cash flow, you've got equity capture, you've got debt pay down, you've got depreciation, and you've got appreciation. So these are the 5 reasons. I don't think one is more important than the other. but you have to decide based on your strategy, based on your goals, which one is best for you. If you don't need the $100 or $200 a month, then you may want to go for properties that are appreciating if it's a down the road. So we had to figure that out, what was important to Joe based on his goal and based on his strategy. Once we did that, we put it in the matrix and we came up with some non-negotiables. So he wanted to have a certain percentage return. And let's just say for this conversation, it was like a 10% cash on cash return. And he wanted to have so much equity in the deal after the rehab was done so that he could do the BRRRR and refinance it out. So we made the spreadsheet conditional where it was red or green. So if it was below the number, it was red. If it was above the number, it was green. So once he would put the property into the spreadsheet, we'd run the numbers and we would say it's red or green, red or green, red or green. And then we started getting some that were all green. And it's like, okay, those, let's go with those. And then of course we had 2 or 3 deals. I believe in one of the things that there was some issues. And I think this may have been in episode 4. And in episode 4, we had a couple deals fall out during the inspection phase. So that was a very good lesson of how to, I mean, look, we put a lot of time, we put in a lot of effort. All of a sudden, boom, one of the house flooded. It happened to flood over the weekend after Joe put a contract on it. And it just happened to be a heavy rain and it flooded the basement and supposedly no one knew about it. But it was a good thing for Joe, obviously, because nobody knew about it. There was no indication of it. But when it rained, it came through. So that was a great thing for Joe. And so we started talking about in episode 4, kind of the due diligence. And so then he found a property. And once he found the property, then we had to renegotiate on some things because once we had a general contractor come in, which Mind has general contracting services, but Joe still got 3-4 bids. And we came up with Mind because they offered not only the best price, but there were some people cheaper, but they weren't going to do the same quality. Now, one of the gotchas that Joe didn't know about was there was a certain city ordinance of some siding that he was not allowed to use. He was able to use it in North Carolina, but he's not able to use it in Atlanta. And so that mistake cost him. And had he had the GC on earlier, he would have known that, but he waited for the GC. So that was a mistake Joe learned after he got the property. And I won't go into the numbers because I'm sure I'll screw up what the numbers are, but it is in the episodes that you can watch and you can see the numbers of what Joe did. And we went back and forth and there were some things we had to go back and renegotiate on. And so Joe would call me and say, hey, what should I do? And so then, we renegotiated, we got bids, we analyzed the bids, we got the scope of work down. Again, careful if you ask someone with a hammer what you should pay for, because they're going to say redo the whole house. Well, this is a rental property. Now, the people selling the property thought retail pricing. So when they said it was going to need all this work, they were at a retail level. Well, obviously, we're not going to pay retail. We're talking to some of the subs and the other people, and we're going to get it much lower. So we were able to get the price much lower than what we had originally thought it was going to be based on the seller's estimates that they gave us based on that. And so then we had to figure out, what will it rent for and how do we basically, with the property management company, we wanted to make sure, can we get this amount of rent for it? Nick's a great guy. Nick did an awesome job, but the property management company is going to be the one that's going to have to take care of renting it. And they're going to make sure they get that number. So I always recommend that when you're doing this, that GC is a general contractor. My bad. So when you are getting a property, especially when you're out of state and you've got a realtor, that's when you want to bring the property management company in, because they're the ones that are going to have to make sure that they can rent it for that amount. And I've seen many, many times where someone says, oh, the realtor said 1,800. And we look at the comps and we're like, it's more like 1,200. Well, they already own the house. Now it's their problem. Realtor's gone in the wind, right? And Nick did a great job, but not everyone's a Nick. So you've got to make sure, especially when you're out of state and you're buying something. Joe never met Nick except on video. Nick just happened to be a good realtor and, believed in BiggerPockets and everything. So he did the good thing and he knew his numbers. But we always want to trust but verify. You always trust, but you verify the numbers. So then he had Mind come in and said, first of all, is this a good area? Can you rent it? And if you can rent it, how long will it take for it to be vacant? Because we got to factor that in the numbers. Is this a 5-day vacancy or is this a 50-day vacancy? Because that can affect my numbers. And then we started getting some bids and scoping it out. And again, we just started bringing the team together and started having conversations, cross conversations with people. And I believe that Mind went out to the property, took a look at it. I don't know if they met Nick out there or not, I forget. But once Joe closed on the property, which was pretty cool, Joe was actually on maneuvers. He sent me a video, and it's actually in the BiggerPockets video that he was in the tree line doing maneuvers, and he actually signed it through DocuSign and closed on the property, sight unseen, while he was in maneuvers. I think he had like 1 bar of service, which was kind of cool. And then there was the matter of getting the property make ready done. So we got the property make ready done, and then that took whatever time it took, and then we got it leased. And so we took care of the leasing. And I think if you look at the episode, that episode we talk about, I think they said they had about 100 and something applicants within 4 days. So Mind is, such a powerhouse when it comes to marketing. They're driving so much traffic to these properties because when you manage 8,000 properties, you obviously get a lot of power in there. So Joe's property got leased very, very quickly. I believe he got it rented for a little bit more. And one of the things I will say, I believe in one of the episodes, we talked about Joe actually added a room, I believe into the basement. He added a wall, added a room, which bumped his rent up more than he would have gotten. So again, these are some smart decisions, and this is why you have these conversations. So today is the finale. Again, we're going to be talking to Joe about the mistakes he made. And I believe we already put it out there that already came out. I'm here if you want to ask me questions about how you can do this. I'm curious if anyone else would ever want to go through this torture of me and everybody, BiggerPockets and Mind, helping you to buy property, because I know I've gotten flooded with some very nice things. I know Joe has. And again, it's nice. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy flipping that switch and seeing it. I think Mind does a great job. BiggerPockets is obviously amazing. You're all on here watching this. But if you have questions for me, this is the time. I see one right here. What is the special offer that is provided by Mind? Exclusive deal. They can earn $500 property management credit. So you can get $500 credit towards your property management. If you go to the website at mind.co, MYND.co, Dream Investment Adventure, you can learn more about that. So $500, pretty good deal, I would say. Next one is, how do I become an out-of-state investor? Well, you buy something out of state. No, what you do is, look, first you got to define your goal and define your strategy. I have pulled the trigger many times too fast. I am known to do that. So I've had to relearn myself and rethink. And so what you've got to do is, whenever I've talked to people about out of state, you got to start with the end in mind. You got to tell me what your life looks like as a result, and then work it backwards. And it becomes so much more clear. You don't want to just get on the freeway and just start driving and not know where you're going. That is not the way to do it. You've got to make sure that you're doing that. Who can help me with out-of-state investing in properties? Obviously, Mind and BiggerPockets. Everyone can help you. Look, everyone is here to help you, right? Your success breeds more success. Success leaves trails. What I did with Joe, with me getting down and dirty and helping him, it wasn't magic, right? I didn't give him some magic button, some magic pill. Joe put in the work. And I will tell you, anyone that I've worked with, if they don't put in the work, I'm not going to help you, because it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time, BiggerPockets, Mind, everyone. So you've got to make sure that you are willing to put in the work. I don't care if you're motivated. Motivation is like a battery. It dies over time. You've got to have drive, and that drive comes from your why. So you've got to make sure you have that. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to take some more questions. And if you have them, ask them. I'll do my best. If I know it, I'll answer. If not, I may lie a little. I'm just kidding. So my business partner came across 10 property portfolio. That's an investment. Wants to unload the mix of singles and duplexes. We plan to wholesale and pointers to begin due diligence. I'm a new investor. Well, if you're a new investor, it's great that you have the deal, Ricardo. But look, just because it's a deal, it doesn't mean it's a deal for you. I've seen many people, they kind of, their eyes are too big and they take on projects and it ends up hurting them. You may want it. My suggestion, if you're going to do that, maybe try to partner with someone who's done it before. Go to BiggerPockets, throw it out there and offer some kind of split. You bring the deal, they bring their expertise. You do a couple deals together, you learn, they get access to the deal, and it's win-win. So again, BiggerPockets is great to go to the forums and do that. And that would be my suggestion. Flip or flopper? How can we get in contact with you? If you want to contact me, you can go on my you can go to my website, steverozenberg.com. You can go to my Instagram page, Rozenberg Steve. You can, if you Google me, you will find me. I'm on BiggerPockets. I'll be on there at 2:30 today on another BiggerPockets Facebook Live. So I'm around. Ron Williams the second. Thanks for watching, Ron. Ron says, love the following the series. I'm personally going through the same process right now, and the series has been truly helpful. If you do this again, I'll certainly throw my name in the hat. Good to hear, Ron. Yeah. Look, I guarantee you, if you don't throw your name in, you're definitely not going to do it. So that's, or you're not going to get help by me. That's for sure. Christina, I'm a registered nurse that travels, and I have set up an LLC to start buying and renting to first responders. That's nice. Good for you. I need help with organization and getting started. So I guess I don't understand if you need help with organizing the LLC or you need help with getting properties. I guess I'm not sure what you're saying you need organizational help with getting started. But obviously, if you go in BiggerPockets, and you can find me in BiggerPockets if anybody wants to ask me questions that I'm not answering here, I'm not answering correctly. But I'm happy. I'm always happy. Anyone that knows me and reaches out to me knows that I get back to them. What can I do as a 16-year-old to get started buy and hold real estate? Ronnie, love it. All right. I'm doing a fix and flip at the moment. Jeez. But soon I'd like to transition into rentals. Well, Ronnie, let me tell you, my son bought his first rental property at 14 years old. So good for you. It can be done. If you watch Brandon Turner, me and Brandon Turner did a podcast. I think it was episode 343. I talk in depth about how I got my son, how he bought his property at 14 years old. And it just the way he thinks is much different now just because of being around all this, right? He's still a teenager. He's still a kid, but he's got a rental property. And it's pretty funny watching him tell his teachers that he doesn't have a job. Well, he does have a job too, but how he gets cash flow, positive cash flow. He gets like $250 a month, which is half of the deal because I'm half owner. He gets $250 a month in his rental property passive income. And it's pretty funny to watch the look on his teachers' faces that are supposed to be teaching him, especially the finance teacher that was supposed to be teaching him about finances. And he asked if he had a job. And he said, at the time he didn't have a job. And he's like, no, I don't have a job. And he's like, what do you do for money? And he said, I've got a rental property. And it took a while, but anyways, congratulations, Ronnie. Good for you. Keep it up. If you want to reach out to me, I'd be happy to help you. Anybody that wants to get their kids involved, always happy to help on that, because I think that, let me just say, as investors, I think sometimes we can be very selfish as entrepreneurs, as investors. And what I mean by that is we take all this time, we go to seminars. Right now we're watching a very, very smart guy. No, just kidding, it's me. But we spend all this time learning all this stuff, right? We go to conferences, all this stuff, but then we go home and we don't really share it with the rest of the family. And maybe we want to pass down our wealth to our children, but are you just giving them the assets or actually teaching them how to do it? And I think it's a big disconnect that, and it's kind of a shame that we don't spend more time trying to teach generational wealth and showing them how to carry the torch, not just give them the assets. I can give my son all of my real estate. He could drive it into the ground quicker than I could have without knowing what to do. So I'm a big believer in helping out and giving back, especially to your kids. And if you're not doing that, get them on podcasts. I had my son on Grant Cardone University. I had him listening to Andy Frisella. I had him on a lot of stuff, just listening, right? Just listening. And that started soaking in. Anyways, all right, where we go. Should you get your real estate license? Some investors say you shouldn't. Mustache Mike, which I freaking love the name. I would say it depends on your goal and depends on your strategy. If you're doing it just to look at deals or to save 6% or 3%, I would say no, that is a waste of your time. That is poor people thinking. And what I mean by that is you're thinking the wrong way. You're never going to shrink to profitability. You're trying to do more tasks to save a little bit of money. To be a realtor, this is something you're governed by the state. You are considered a knowledgeable person. You are liable for things. There's licensing, there's costs, there's a time commitment. So what else could you be doing to grow your portfolio or just to save 3 or 6%? I don't see that. I'm a big believer in leverage. I use virtual assistants. I use management companies. I use realtors. I use all of that. So that's just me. But I'm a big believer in really utilizing people around me. 3% is nothing. If I missed, you could be busy getting your license and driving around showing people properties, or you're looking at MLS and you miss a great deal because you're so busy getting your license. So I'm personally not a big believer in that. If it's part of your goal and it's part of your strategy, then absolutely. But for me, if I was helping you, I would make you defend why you're doing it, and you have to really explain that to me. Chris Chamberlain. Oh man, I got a lot of. All right, let me see. Okay, been watching. Let's give a thumbs up. All right, great info. Thanks, Lourdes. Chris Chamberlain, thanks, Steve. Been looking for a management company. Just look through the website. Looks good. Thanks. Appreciate sharing the knowledge. Yeah, Chris. Yeah, Mind, like I said, if you want to invest, they're in over 20 investable markets nationwide. Chances are they're probably in the market that you are or should be in, depending on depends on your strategy, right? Let's see here. Do you have any unique questions for vetting potential property managers for long distance property? If you watch the video, I do. I have a lot. But if you watch the video, you'll see a lot of good questions. But again, you just want to make sure that they're aligned with your goals. You want to make sure that your strategy matches theirs. All right, we're going to keep going here till Zach says, Zach, am I still good, man? He probably is not even watching anymore. He probably should now. All right, so Hector, congratulations on your son's accomplishment. Good parenting. Thanks, Hector. Appreciate it, man. Ron, what were some specific criteria for narrowing down locations? I know Joe looked at Fortune 500 companies and appreciation, but what else should be considered? I'm adapting these for short-term rentals. Well, if you're doing it for short-term rentals, you have to figure out what are the drivers for short-term rentals. So short-term rentals, you got to remember, short-term rentals have a different economic driver. What causes people to go there? What is the average stay for people? You want to look at that. Just because you think it's a great area, it may not be, right? And so, sometimes short-term rentals are better on the upper scale on the beach. You may have to buy a $2-3 million house on the beach, but you'll make that up in return, as it goes. So I would look at the short-term rental industry, and I would really, really look at what are the drivers that make people go to short-term rentals. I would look at some cities that are the highest in short-term rentals. I know BiggerPockets has a whole section on that, and I would really, really dig deep and see what cities have the best returns based on your goals and based on your strategy, right? If you're looking for a place that you can own now and retire with, or whatever the case may be, that's what I would do. All right. I know we got some more. Armando. Oh, I lost him. Where'd you go, Armando? Oh, here we go. Armando, USMC officer. Thank you for your service, Armando. About to go to MOS school for 6 months. Don't know where I'll be stationed. No real estate experience yet. Do you recommend investing long distance or waiting till I'm settled? Armando, just like I tell everyone else, this is the time that you sharpen your mental axe, right? This is the time investing in local, investing long distance, it's irrelevant. It really is. We have that stuck in our mind, right? We think that we need to invest. So my example to you and everyone watching is, if you buy stock, do you only buy stock in the neighborhood that you live in? The answer is no. You buy stock based on numbers, PE ratios, dividends, right? So if you're going to buy some Chase Bank stock, are you going to only buy it because it's around the corner from you? No, you're going to buy it based on numbers. But when you go to buy it, are you going to stick your head in the building of Chase and kind of, make sure that the board of directors is having a good day? You're going to kind of make sure everything's cool and everyone's happy? No, you're going to buy it based on numbers. You're going to sell it based on numbers. Same thing with real estate. Real estate is the same kind of asset it's a different asset class, but it's the same model as stock. It's just a number. So my point, Armando, is while you're away, I would learn as much as I could. When I was learning, I was reading a book a week. Of course, there wasn't YouTube. I won't date myself, but we'll just say that's the case. I had to go to the library. I had a library card. I wrote a book on my stories, which is pretty funny, about my trials and tribulations as an airline pilot, going into real estate and all the failures. But anyways, I would learn as much as I could, because that really is going to be the key. So first of all, thank you for your service, Armando. Stay safe, man. And, when you get back, I do have a soft spot helping military guys. So I always make time. So if you want to reach out to me directly, I'm happy to sit down and chat with you, and I'll give you my advice. All All right, Marion, you're passing on a legacy to your son with your real estate knowledge. He is very fortunate. Most kids never got that. Yeah, Marlon, I would say I didn't have that either. My parents didn't own real estate or anything. They were. I grew up in Los Angeles, and they were workers. They had I didn't come from this poor, destitute life or anything like that. I was a regular middle family, but both my parents worked. I had four brothers, 2 sisters. I had to get my parents TV after a while. But we, that's what they worked, right? They worked. So that's what we did. I didn't learn about real estate until, as an airline pilot, I was about to lose my career in 9/11. So that's what drove me. My should became a must. And my must was, you need to freaking hurry up and get that done because you may not have a job. So that's my deal. Ronnie, thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate it, man. Looking at a 14-plex right now in a growing market with lots of new development. That's awesome. Mustache Mike, I swear I love that name. Thanks, appreciate it. I jumped real quick. Hello, just joining. How do you learn your market and become comfortable from a distance? FDE Jackson. I would say, look, you just have to educate yourself. You've got to know what you define a good deal and a bad deal. That's the biggest challenge we all have. If you cannot sit down with me and tell me what is a good deal and what is a bad deal based on numbers and based on your goal and your strategy, you're not ready to buy anything. Because once you buy that property, shit gets real very fast, let me just say. And when it's your money on the line, I have had many, many sleepless nights and lost a lot of money because I pulled the trigger way too quick and I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm very adamant that do not do something unless you are ready. You've got to study. You've got to make sure you know what your deals are. And if you cannot explain it to me, then I would say you're not ready. All right, I got a couple more. I think Zach's going to kick me off soon. Got about an hour I've been going. I am going to be on BiggerPockets later today with Miss Ashley Kerr. We're going to be talking about a duplex that she purchased and quadrupled or some huge amount of money she made on it. But 2:30 p.m. today, I'm going to be on with Ashley there. Let's see. Here we go. Are LLCs necessary when buying rental properties? And is it harder to get financing from a bank through your LLC? That's from Benjamin. Benjamin, yes, it is almost impossible to get financing through a bank if you're just going through like a Chase A paper, right? You can get it, normally smaller, conventional, but either way, you are still signing for it. So a lot of people think when you buy it through an LLC, you are not liable. You are still personally signing in a guarantor on the LLC. LLCs, I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving advice for tax or insurance or anything. So just it's on video here. But normally LLCs are for asset protection and anonymity. They are not for you not having to pay back the loan. So a lot of times what people do is they will buy the property and then they will transfer it over into the LLC. There is a thing called the St Germain Act, which is the due on sale clause on a property that the lender can call the note due. So you want to learn a little bit more about that. I've personally never met anyone that's done it, but again, you want to get legal advice before you do that. So it's tough to do an LLC. There's other reasons why it makes sense. There's other reasons why it doesn't make sense. It just depends on your exit. If you're going to hold this property forever, then you can put it in a trust. If you're going to do a 1031 exchange, you're going to do a value play and sell it, then maybe it doesn't make sense for an LLC. If you're in a partnership, you may want to do a JV. So it depends on how you're going to purchase the property and what your exit strategy is. So that's, again, the exit strategy is very important. All right, Tyler, what are some, oh, I lost you, Tyler. There you are. What are some key components in designing a house strictly for short-term rental? I'm not a big short-term rental guru. I know they are out there, and I know on BiggerPockets has them. I would say, I don't know, man. I'd be lying if I told you. I could think of a couple lies, but I would tell you, I would go on BiggerPockets.com, go on the forums, and they'll be able to help you because that's what they do, right? I mean, you got to have something that people want, right? They want to rent your property. What is it people want? If you're in an ocean area, you got to have stuff for ocean stuff, right? If you're in a lake, you got to have lake stuff. You got to make it for the price point that you're at, and so those kind of things. What is your book called? It's called Building an Empire. That was my book, Building an Empire. You can find it on Amazon and other places. But I'm not pushing my book, Zach, so don't get mad at me. I'm just letting people know that I do have a book and it's my story. And I'm on camera and you're not. So how can I contact you? You can find me through Mind. You can find me through BiggerPockets. You can find me on social media. I'm pretty accessible. What do you say about a novice in real estate in San Diego looking to buy a 4-unit property that you can live in? I would say good luck. Now, a property in San Diego, it depends on the situation, depends on the price point, depends on your goal, depends on your strategy. What is your exit strategy? I mean, there's a lot of things that's, it's very hard for me to give advice. I'm very cautious to give advice to people when I don't know the whole story, right? I wouldn't be doing my job helping people if I just told you to do something without knowing what your strategy is, what your goal is. Does it align? Am I putting you closer into bankruptcy because I tell you, yeah, go for it and buy it? Does it better to rent? I mean, there's a lot of variables that you gotta remember. So Mrs. Lynch, completely new to BP. Thank you for sharing. I have a little bit of capital to invest in real estate. I've missed out on opportunities with houses for sale in my area, but don't know where to start. Well, luckily, Mrs. Lynch, those deals don't go away. They are there all the time. The first thing you do is go on BiggerPockets.com, go into the forums, and educate yourself. If you want to talk to someone at Mind, you can talk to someone at Mind about what is the right property to match your goals, and you put those two together, and you start building your strategy before you do anything. The money doesn't need to leave your pocket. It doesn't need to burn a hole. Real estate has been here since the beginning of time. It's still going to be here. Real estate goes in cycles. It's normally 7-year cycles. So it goes up, and then it goes sideways, and then it goes down. So if you think about it, back in 2001, it was up, and then it crashed, started building up again. 2008, it crashed. 2014, it went up. Oil was at 100 and, $50 a barrel. Now we're at 2020. So it's about 7 years. I don't care if it's systemic. I don't care if it's COVID. I don't care what you want to call it. Since the beginning of time, there have been cycles. It is a cycle, just like everything. Just like there's a winter. Every year there's a winter. Every 7 years, there is going to be some sort of correction of the market. So that, again, you're not missing out on anything. Okay. Well, folks, I think that this is about the end of my time. It's been about an hour. Again, I hope you guys got something out of this. I wanted to come on along with Mind and BiggerPockets. Again, investing is a team sport. Do not think that you should or need to do this on your own because you are sadly mistaken. Use the experts. You should not learn how to swing a hammer if you don't know how to. You shouldn't learn how to screen tenants if you don't know how to. Applications, you should not learn to do these things. You hire people that do those. You do what you do best, which is finding deals and making contracts. Let other people what they do best. Remember, you're not buying real estate to be more busy. You're not doing it to be more stressed. I know, and I can tell you that sleepless nights and losing hundreds and thousands of dollars is not the way to go because I thought I could do it all on my own. I didn't even know that all these assets existed. Now that I know, I could have accelerated my life. I probably would have a full head of hair if I would have known how to do this right the first time. So my advice to you is use these assets that you have, slow down to speed up. Real estate is not going anywhere. It is always going to be here. And if you buy it wrong, then it's kind of your fault. There's nobody to blame but yourself. It's your money. It's your responsibility. It is your fiduciary responsibility to be smart with your money and to really think about what you're doing. And that's why ask questions of BiggerPockets. Go to their forums. Go to Mind Property Management. Again, it's MYND.co. You can talk to anyone. It doesn't cost you anything. As a matter of fact, Mind is giving you $500 off property management services if you sign up with them in their 20 markets. So, you saw what we did with Joe. We can, if anybody is interested in that, text message Zach. No, just kidding. If anybody wants to talk about doing some kind of mentoring, I think BiggerPockets is mulling over doing another round. I don't know. You have to reach out to them over there. But if anyone's interested, obviously, and they want to talk about me helping them on a 2.0, we can see if that's something BiggerPockets wants and mind, and we can, talk about that. So anyways, folks, that's the end of my day for here. I will be on at 2:30 p.m. on Facebook and Instagram for BiggerPockets again with Miss Ashley Kerr from the Real Estate Rookie Podcast Show. And we're going to be talking about her fourplex, duplex, or whatever it is she bought. So, folks, that is the end. Thank you so much for watching the journey with me and Joe. Super, super proud of Joe. He did an awesome job. Again, go to the YouTube playlist. Today is the grand finale, 8 series, about 2 months worth of me and Joe just going at it, helping him. You can do it too. It's not hard. Just utilize the recipe. It's a recipe to make a cake. Just use the recipe for yourself. It's there. We're doing it for free for you that you can learn it. So, take the time, learn it, and you can kind of go from there. So guys, thank you so much. I'm going to go. Bye-bye.